Well, stocks here in Europe are down for a third consecutive session. In fact, Europe's benchmark index is down almost 1% today. That's after yesterday's 2% drop. Now, today's low is erasing that near 50% rally we saw this summer. And lenders like Lloyds Banking Group and KBC are all leading the losses on fears that rally I just mentioned may have been overdone. But it's not all doom and gloom. Shares in BP are trading nearly 3% higher at the moment. That's thanks to what BP is describing, and I quote here, as a great oil find. But overall, Sid, the picture is rather bleak here in Europe. Well, the FTSE, CAC and DAX all in the red this morning, following on from those losses we saw in Asia overnight. Danone is one of the biggest losers here in Europe after cutting its sales growth target of 8 to 10% down to just 5%. The yoghurt maker, which is also famous for its water, is now down over 3% on that news. Now, Air France KLM also came out after the bell yesterday. The airline announced first half net losses of €500,000, but said it hopes to break even next year. Now, Air France isn't alone in its trouble, so we're not seeing too much reaction this morning on that. Its stock down just over 0.5% at the moment. But German chip maker Infineon is bucking the trend this morning. It's one of the biggest gainers on the DAX after beating estimates and announcing bullish forecasts for 2010. Now, those are some of the companies moving the markets this morning, but just as US data set the tone in afternoon trades yesterday, traders are looking to the US jobless claims out a little later today for further direction. We've already had worse than expected retail sales out of the UK just under an hour ago. Analysts were expecting a slightly higher increase in sales than they actually got. So at the moment, we're seeing a cautious mood here in London. Well, yes, that's right. After just a few hours, European leaders have decided they will bail out Greece, the bloc's first bailout in its 11-year history, which really underlines just how significant today's decision is. Up until now, they've held back to see if Greece's plan to reduce its deficit would be enough, but now EU leaders are saying it's time to take action. In fact, Angela Merkel put it, Greece will not be left out in the cold in this situation. Now, Herman Rompuy, the EU's new president, has just finished making his statement. He says the EU will help Greece, but will have to wait until Tuesday at the latest to find out exactly how the bloc will help. At this stage, that part of the plan is very unclear. Now, there are a few options being discussed: a loan, perhaps a Eurozone bond, or even the possibility of a state-owned bank in, say, Germany buying Greek debt so Greece can service its deficit. Now, according to our sources, these are just a few of the options being discussed. IMF help is also being discussed at this stage, but as you can imagine, EU ministers are very tight-lipped at this stage, so we'll have to wait and see exactly. We'll have to wait up until about Tuesday to find out exactly how the EU plans to help Greece. Well, yeah, let's look at the markets. As expected, the euro is rallying against the dollar. In fact, it's up about 10 ticks at the moment, and we are seeing a positive impact on European shares, particularly banking stocks, which are seeing a bit of a spike at the moment. But I can't stress enough how volatile this market is. We're not seeing one clear direction. We're seeing a lot of fluctuations at the moment, and that's because it's great that the EU ministers have come out and said there will be a bailout, but investors are now asking, well, exactly what is the EU bloc going to do, and more importantly, will it be enough? But at the moment, in the short term, the markets are rallying and they are seeing this as positive news, and that is very much feeding through into stocks here in Europe.